Namaste and a very warm welcome to you on Sarva Gunn Sampann. Thank you so much for joining me on this podcast where I have the opportunity to engage with women of India and the Indian diaspora and highlight and showcase their many talents and many achievements and the stories behind how they have gotten to where they have in their station of life. My guest today is a woman who values being a good listener and communicator. She values empathy, humility, and gratitude. Some of her strengths include her loving nature, being happy and peaceful with who she is and what she does, her patience, and accepting all the situations in life as they come to her. It is indeed my privilege and a great fortune to connect with Lakshmi Mohan Garu, who I've been trying to get for a long time on this podcast. So Lakshmi Garu, welcome to the show. It's such a pleasure and such an honor. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, and I want to tell you, Namaste. Thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you for being so patient with me. There's been a lot of changes. In the last 1 year or so, 2 years, I retired and I moved to Chicago from Akron, Ohio, where I had taught for Discovery Montessori School. And it's been an adjustment time for me to settle down and here. And so, but I'm loving it and it's wonderful.
I'm thrilled to hear that you are enjoying and you're loving what you're doing, but I'm sure it's the people around you that will probably have more to talk about the impact you're making and the joy that you're spreading. So we'll get started, Lakshmi Garu. Our first segment in this podcast is all about your childhood. It's called Bachpan Ke Din, and we go back in time and learn about what little Lakshmi Mohan was growing up and who were the early influences, what your childhood was like. So take it away from here.
Well, I was born in Kerala, India, and I was brought up mainly in Trivandrum. That's where I spent my childhood years. And I was just an ordinary girl growing up with three brothers, very, very active three brothers. Their influence on in my life was that more than being a girl and do girly things, I was influenced to doing tree climbing and playing cricket and all those kind of things. So those are my great memories growing up with them. And my parents are wonderful. And my father is no more, but he had a great influence on me because he took care of my education a lot. Wherever I was lacking, he filled in those spaces for me, teaching me. And my mother is my best friend. She always was my best friend. So I had a wonderful family atmosphere growing up. And when I was 19, I moved to this country. I got married and I moved to this country. And I have a son, Vijay, and he's married. And I have three beautiful granddaughters.
Talk to me a little bit about your schooling. What subjects did you take and how were you in school? So this we covered until your high school.
I studied in Holy Angels Convent in Trivandrum. And that's where I finished my high school. And I was okay in school. That's all I can say. I just loved the social part of it and the emotional growth that I had and this discipline and the strictness of the nuns there who ran the convent. So in all, it gave me a great discipline over my life.
It's wonderful to hear. So Lakshmi Garu will move on to the next segment, which is the onward journey. Here we talk about what you did after your high school. So you said you came here at 19 and talk about life as it happened to you in the United States all the way till present day.
Well, the 50-year journey that I have in this country is really memorable. And I was married, I came here, and in 1976, my son Vijay was born. That was the highlight of my life, I think, because having a child in the house made me wonder what is the right way to bring up a child? What is there out there for him? But more than that, when I was a child, my mom always tells me now how I was attracted to little babies and how the children around me and my dolls were very important. I used to have classes for them all the time. So my mom tells me how important children were in my life. And I remember taking classes in child development and child psychology in college. And there was a kindergarten preschool section there in college. I went to SIET college in Madras, in Chennai. And whenever I got the time away from class, I would run over there to watch the children. So I knew in a way that I wanted to be with children. So you can imagine my joy when I had my own. And then it was a lot of trial and error with him. What worked, I was perplexed with some of his behavior. I bet he was too with mine. And uh, I needed to make sense of all this. The repetitive work that he did that didn't make sense to me. I thought, what's he doing? But then when I read Montessori, when I visited Montessori schools and spoke to Montessori teachers, I knew exactly what he was doing. He was growing up, he was exploring, he was being independent. And so all of those things I like to foster. And so Montessori was the right place for him. But I do have to tell you, as a child, I went to a Montessori school in Coimbatore for 1 year or so. My mom tells me that. I don't have a lot of memories, but my mom says it looked like a Montessori classroom that she has visited in our school in Akron. So she remembers that. So I'm glad that I got that planted, those kind of seeds planted in me when I was that young, formative age. So everything worked out for me. It was taking me towards my training to get Montessori. And I have to tell you, I've been reading a lot of books, and especially the spiritual books. And it says that it's predetermined. We have these tendencies that we bring in that leads us to what we are going to do, who we are going to be. And I am those very lucky people who, whatever it is, that universe led me to see that and go towards that and then to get it. So how lucky I am to do that. And about my Montessori training, I did it in St. Louis, Missouri. And my Montessori teacher, Pearl Vanderwall, was a direct student of Dr. Montessori. That was the highlight because I wanted to be taught by her. And she was in her very last stages of teaching. And she told me to wait and wait and wait. It went on for 2, 3 years. And finally she said, I'm ready. And then she told me to join. And I knew that was the best time for me. I thought I was getting a chance to live with Dr. Montessori. When she spoke, it was right out of Dr. Montessori's texts, her values, her methodologies, her principles. And it was wonderful, that experience. And then immediately upon graduating, she gave me a job right there. She asked me to teach in her very prestigious Montessori school. And then I moved to Ohio in 1983. In Ohio, a lot of people were not aware of Montessori. So I had to go to the community and present Montessori to the community and tell them what it is, especially in Akron. There were other schools in Cleveland, Rexville, all those places we had school. Hudson Montessori was there, but not in Akron. So in Akron, we had to introduce Akron to the community. And then there was a person, she started a Montessori school because she had 4 children. And then the fourth child graduated and she had no reason to run the school anymore. That's when she said, I'm going to leave. And I'm so grateful. The parents in the school found that I would be a good person to take over that school. And they did all the formalities to get the school, registered and all that. And that's the beginning of Discovery Montessori School.
Your school has been a boon and a blessing for so many children and their parents. And I would love to learn more about what this kind of education is and what it does to a child from none other than an expert in this field in our next segment, which is Kapki Baat. And here I'd love for you to talk all about Montessori education.
Wow. Dr. Montessori was the first woman doctor to ever graduate from the University of Rome. And of course, she didn't get a lot of patients because of that. And what happened was she was put in charge of some children who were thought to be uneducable and they were in the slums and they thought that there's something wrong with these children. So Dr. Montessori started to observe these children and found out that they were absolutely fine. And then she came up with her method of how children become the environment. That's the key. If you have a household that's conducive for a child to learn and explore and live, and everyone is attentive to that child's needs, that child will have everything for him to grow up into a an adult with those values. But on the other hand, if you have a household that is not conducive to the children, and if the parents are doing their own things, or if the TV is going on all the time, and the child is waiting to do what he needs to do and grow in that household, everyone has to help him. Those are all the negative factors that does not aid a child in his growth. And so Dr. Montessori believes the environment becomes the child. And so why not prepare the environment with everything that's needed for a child to grow? Because child learns through movement. By sitting down in a chair and table 3 hours a day, learning from a teacher, talking is not the right way, Dr. Montessori found. They need to move with their bodies. They learn through their senses by touching, feeling, hearing, and talking and smelling, tasting. The environment is filled with these five senses. And by moving freely in such an environment and making his own decisions where he would like to go, she calls it following the child. And so instead of the teacher making a regimen for the children to follow, she learns to follow the child. So every child, when they come into the classroom, we go through a process. The teacher calls it normalization. What Dr. Montessori means by the normalizing a child, is when the child comes in on his own, knows exactly what to do. He would hang up his jacket or he will put away his lunch boxes. He comes in the classroom, he knows exactly where he left off the previous day, and his mind is to choose telling him to move with that lesson, or he's a friend and he does his socialization. But eventually they have like a 2.5 3 hours of uninterrupted work time, we call it. That's when the teacher walks around, give one-on-one lessons. The child repeats the lessons that he received the previous days. But see, the repetition in the Montessori classroom is the most important aspect of learning for a child. If you have watched your child, how many times do they repeat an activity? To a point where, why is he doing that so many times? But every time he repeats it, he gets one more thing about that lesson, right? Even pouring water. First time he pours water, he just loves the way it falls. But then he sees how it's flowing, and then he gets more in control of that lesson, where he's aware of the water drops around it. And then if we show them how to be, how to clean up after himself and all that, then he learns more etiquette of how to do work that gracefully. And then he will feel proud about the fact that he is a contributing member of this classroom society. That's how the children acquire their self confidence. Once they learn self confidence, once they learn how to be freely, independently moving through the classroom, once they learn to choose materials, work with it without any interruptions from the adults, and then whenever he's ready, he puts it away. All of those qualities make him a leader in the classroom. He's ready to teach other children. That is one of the reasons in the Montessori classroom, we have children of varied ages. There is a 3-year age span in a Montessori classroom, 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. 5-year-olds are kindergartners, 3-year-olds are just getting into the Montessori classroom, getting away from the toddler age group. So what happens is, even more than from a teacher, they are learning from the peers. And their peers are learning at different levels, right? So some, they just absorb the lesson just by watching. Many times I would sit down and I would invite a child for a lesson. And instead of me giving him a lesson, they will give me a lesson. That's how I know how the importance of environment is important, is good for the Montessori classroom. You know, There is no teacher in the classroom. We are called directresses because we can only direct the classroom, their energy in the right way. We do have to put some disciplines in the classroom, like you may not run in the classroom. There is always a reason behind it, right? We tell them the reason. Natural consequences. You run, you may fall. You and look at the classroom. There are so many sharp edges, so you don't want to bump into anything. You don't want to run over your friend's work. So then the first couple of months is all about those kind of grace and courtesy activities. We teach them how to walk around or how to talk in the classroom, not yell from a distance, but come and talk, how to get anyone's attention, how to ask for something. So this gives them so much peace knowing their boundaries. That's important. Dr. Montessori talks a lot about the limits the children need to know, so it gives them that inner freedom, right? So these are very basic things to know about a Montessori classroom. And there's so much more.
Well, thank you very much for giving that overview of what the classroom looks like and how it's structured. So I do have a few questions around the kind of education system that is imparted through the Montessori versus a regular classroom. And a lot of times, I think that's a concern with the parents that there is this perception that the Montessori is very unstructured and it allows, like you said, the teacher is basically following the child to see what they're doing and how they're learning. So they're taking responsibility for their own learning from step A to step Z, right? All the way through, there is learning in every situation, and by repetition, by being mindful, they're really accomplishing tasks. But in a classroom environment, it's more like you're listening to the teacher and you're following directions, and you're completing the work that's been assigned to you. So there is this concern that if I send my child to a Montessori and let's say they've been there for a couple of years, will they be able to adjust to the real world or the traditional classroom if they get into it? And what are some challenges and issues with it? So please talk
These
to us.
are all very, very valid questions that the parents have. And Montessori classroom does look very busy. Everyone's moving. But the trick is to observe one child and follow him through for half an hour. And you will see that if this child is normalized, he knows what he's doing, what kind of activity he's choosing. And then there is a feeling that he does the work and he finishes it, he puts it away beautifully, ready for the next person on the shelf. And he rolls up his rug, he puts it away. And then comes that beautiful feeling of he's peaceful because he has nourished his need to be a part of this world, right? So that's what Montessori is. We give them the entire universe in the classroom. Whatever the child is interested, it could be geography or it could be about nature, plants, animals, astronomy. It could be math or learning to build words or learning the sounds and so many things, sensorial materials, so unique to a Montessori classroom. The sensorial materials answer the child's need to learn through his senses. Everything is hands on and nothing is on the blackboard, and the child has to understand. This is the time of their life when they are connecting their brain with their hands. Through their hands, by touching, they're building their intelligence. I have noticed so many times the best service we can do is to give them that patience for them to repeat, to learn through their hands, and then as they assimilate more and more concept, how does he show that in his everyday life, right? The way he, in a Montessori classroom, being there, and once he goes out into the nature, his eyes are looking at things that another child is not looking. They become very aware of all parts. For example, we just take them on a nature walk, and then we tell them, look at nature, look at the trees. And then the next is when I take the children, I say, give them a big hug, give a tree a big hug, and look at the different parts of the tree. What's holding this tree up? And then they come in and they do the parts of the tree. And then naturally, now they're feeling the leaves. So they do the parts of the leaf, parts of the flower. Everything is nature that they want to know. He's asking questions like, what is there for? What am I doing here? What is reason for everything that's so they learn slowly an interdependence between them and nature, between them and animals. That interdependence gives them the feeling of protectorship, that they are responsible for everything that happens in the world. If that is not there for a child growing up, especially when they are in the most formative years, from 0 to 6 years old, those impressions are not made. It's very hard to tell a child, the importance of what we consider as values, right? So a lot of the children who go from Montessori to a traditional setting, they are very confident. A child who graduates from kindergarten, they are done all the math materials all the way up to abstract math. You have a son who went through the Montessori and you know how prepared he was. Would you like to talk about that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think academics is one aspect, but I think what my child gained from the Montessori was uh, this experience of connecting with the world around him in ways that I feel textbooks, they are completely lacking. So the child's ability to absorb information is one thing, but the child's ability to connect with his or her immediate environment, to develop the sensitivity and the sensibility to care about things around him or her, is what I feel that I noticed as one of the biggest pluses and blessings of being in a Montessori environment.
Yes, and well said. That's exactly what I feel about the children in Montessori because Dr. Montessori also says, and I have seen that many, many times, even with adults who've been in Montessori, what they learn in their formative years are there to stay. They don't, it's like learning to swim or learning a language. You can never learn the language, a different language, as well as you did your mother tongue. And that's because she says we were in a period called the sensitive period when we can naturally absorb what's being there in the environment, the language, or the way we show affection, or the way we share, or giving them the values, giving them a routine and order in where they're living, and consistency. Yeah. All of those things, if you give it to them, and when they are in that formative years, I see that Montessori children have a better sense of time management, work management, a curiosity that takes them beyond what they're being taught in school. And oftentimes I have parents who come back and tell me that the teacher is wondering how come he wants to learn more about one subject when the teacher's curriculum stops one way somewhere, she's ready to move on to the but that's where Montessori is also different. We tell them that they are responsible, and as soon as they learn to read, there are books in the classroom where they can go and do research. Even in kindergarten, I remember, Nathan, how much of a researcher he was. Once he learned, his only reason to learn to read was to read books. He wanted to learn all the science books and all the things like that. Many of them are like that. And then they're so independent and they don't even tell you what they want to do. I just observe them. One day they're interested in this. So that kind of natural learning abilities is not thwarted in a Montessori classroom, whatever they want to be. I always often tell the parents that it's easy to teach ABC and 1, 2, 3, but then to use it in the real world and use it for what they want to be, where they want to go, that is the true sense of what a Montessori classroom does. And actually, the children who go from Montessori to a public school or a traditional setting, they become very successful. They become very good role models. They're very sensitive and they become peacemakers. Whenever there is a conflict, they know how to resolve them using words instead of their hands. Things like that are it's introduced so much in our classroom. We don't give them timeouts. Things like that is important. If somebody hurt someone else, they just sit together, talk about it. It only took a second to hurt, with how long it takes to heal. And they will they will rub their back. We want some water. Can I give you a Kleenex? And when the child says, I'm ready to go, this child goes with them and they're happy to go back, having learned a lesson,
Yes.
right?
Yep. And I think, from what I have observed about Discovery Montessori is also the personality of uh, the teachers and the principals, especially, what they bring to the table. So you also have to be the kind of person who is so highly self-aware and in tune with every child and their emotions to be able to guide them like that. And, I'm wondering if every Montessori is required to put their teachers through that training where they really have to evolve to that extent where they're able to impart that kind of fine education.
In Montessori education, when I took my training, I was surprised that Dr. Montessori talks about the spiritual preparation of a teacher. Nothing to do with religion, but spiritually, how do you have to be in order to receive a child and guide them to their fullest potential, right? For that, you cannot be a person who's authoritative. You cannot be a person who's not communicating with the child to hear him. And you cannot be a person who has their own agenda. Child's agenda becomes your agenda. It's not to say that you just let them go freely. When there is the time to talk to them, we talk to them in such a way they understand this happened, I did this, that was not the right decision. Now I need to change my behavior. For them to understand, you have to teach them to be peaceful, and they have to find a harmony in the classroom where they can get along with everybody. So the spiritual preparation of the teacher, when I learned and I got into it, I found out how humble the teachers have to be, how not be showing off what they are do, what they know, instead guide them. And another thing I noticed was I came to the conclusion that the child is always right. Instead of correcting them, he's always right because he's in the process of building that character, value, or academic skill. So even if they're doing a puzzle, and I know parents want to be so helpful to children. They want to say, I will help you, or I can finish it, or I will teach you. It's fine. They can spend so much time with the children. But when a child is not able to finish a puzzle, a 3-year old, and if the child says, I want to put it away now, there is a reason because he's done, he's gotten everything that he could in that short span that his mind is assimilating. Parents might think, oh, he's not doing it right. Let me go and help him. But it's by helping. I'll tell you a story about a butterfly. So there is a man watching a cocoon, and there is a butterfly inside, and it's struggling to come out. And it's really making a lot of effort to move its wings so it can break open the cocoon and come out. And then this man gets very sad for this butterfly. Let me help him out. So he opens the cocoon, and the butterfly, he does this for a while. He flutters its wings, and then he falls down and he dies. Then he gets very sad. What did I do? Then he realizes the work that the butterfly needed to do to strengthen his wings needed to happen inside the cocoon. When he's ready, he will be able to come out and he will fly away. But if we help in the process, that, that the process of finding out the process itself is a big part. They're not interested in the end product. They want to go through the process to strengthen themselves, right? Does that make sense? So that's exactly what we are selling the children, Let them go through those little struggles. For us, it's little, for them, it's immense. And the next couple of days later, he has assimilated the puzzle. He comes and gets the puzzle out and he's doing the puzzle and he's totally finished it. Imagine his mental attitude. I did it. But when a parent or me helping the child along with everything, the child will never feel as if they are doing the work.
Yeah.
And that's why you always, mothers will say, oh, you want to do everything by yourself. Let me do it, mommy. No, let me help you. This is a conversation I often hear, but that kind of help is like the butterfly help that we are doing. So think about that. The parent needs to not be not be away from the child and just watch him struggle. I do have children who will say, can you help me, please? And then I will come and do the next step or tell him how that puzzle goes, maybe one more piece. And then I watch his face. If he is not happy with that help, then I will sit down with him and help some more. Some children want to finish. That's their goal. Some children, they're willing to wait and do it again the next day. See, so children are different. So each child, we have to see how they come to that level, and then do they need help? And that kind of help, when you give it at 3 years old, imagine a child in kindergarten when they are doing addition, memorization, they are doing the decimals, they're doing the bank game where there's so much exchanging of the numbers and all that happens. They would have that patience, and they would also know the steps, and they know how to put everything leads up to everything else that their child is doing, right? So we prepare them in such a way that they're ready. Nothing is too much for them. That's the teacher's job, to make sure we always work within the child's limit but yet challenge them.
Thank you so much for sharing a wealth of wisdom and information about the right way of teaching through Montessori education. Because I think for most parents, it's such a huge struggle to, like you said, stay out of it and let the child take the lead and do. Because I think in the parents' mind, it's all about getting to the finish line. How soon can you finish? And there's always this pressure, this peer pressure that you have to respond to what's happening in your immediate environment. Look at this kid and the comparison, and look at what that child has done. And even parents, when they talk amongst themselves, it's all about accomplishments and achieving tasks, and what is the child doing, how many activities is she or he into, and the toll that takes on the child and the relationship with the parent. It's a huge topic, huge issue.
Huge topic.
And I think it's very, very important. And I wonder if there's a way that parents are first exposed to the Montessori education and what it truly means, and what changes they need to bring in their own lives before they put their kids into this kind of education.
I think parents are wonderful. They love their children so much. They want the best for their children. But my job is to also show them, not teach them. Show them there is another way. If the child is not cooperating, give them a choice. And the parent is so much in control, because parents think that if I have to give them choice, I'm losing my control. It's not losing your control, because you have to be careful. What are the choices you're offering? Whatever he chooses, it needs to be okay with you, right? So I'm just saying that, do you want to go to bed is not an option, but you can say, do you want me to read one book, or do you want me to read two books before you go to bed? So he knows that he has to go to bed, but you're giving them a choice. And mommy time is very important for them. One of the reasons children don't want to go to bed is they don't want to lose that comfort that parents offer them. They're so close to them, right? So hold on to that closeness. Lead them to the bed, read them book. And the questions that the children ask at the verge of going to sleep are so precious. And I would love it if the parents' voice is what they hear last when they go to sleep. Assuring words, reassuring. Not giving them instructions like, when you wake up tomorrow, you have to do this, this, and that. Instead, say, I would like for you to have a beautiful, rest in the night. That's when you're going to think about everything good, everything positive thinking come from a good night's sleep. You'll be ready. Your body will be ready. Things like that, according to the age. I remember reading to my son every night. And when he was like in the high school years, it was not books that we read, but some of the newspaper articles or something like that we will discuss before he goes to bed. Reading, I have three granddaughters. And as an Indian grandmother, when they were younger, I used to tell them story of Rama, Krishna, and all that. Within 20 minutes, I will finish Ramayana before, and they love story time. They love story time. And every night I have to tell them stories. But as they grew more and more, my Ramayana became 2 hours and then it became 2 days. And now I can read one chapter after the other and they're all listening. Like that. With the child, you also grow. And always remember to not to put your thoughts and I want you to become that. I want you. But instead, ask them, what makes you feel happy? What do you do that gives you so much peace? And would you like it if you go for a walk? Would you like to go for a walk with mom or dad? I believe in a basket where there are so many suggestions that you leave for the child. So, mommy, I'm bored. Let's look at the basket and see what you can do. And always make sure that's a mommy and child activity. So the child will now read a book with mommy or go for a walk in the neighborhood or maybe water the plants or go shopping or cooking, salad making, something in the bed, even laundry or even putting all the shoes in order. As long as mommy is a part of it, they love it. So include the child in the everyday living so the child will understand he's a part of the family rather than just a member watching parents working.
That's such beautiful advice, Lakshmi Garu, and coming from you in your inimitable, soothing voice, I'm sure this is going to be so helpful to so many mothers and so many parents who are listening to this. And I hope it really helps them build a strong bond and a close one at that with their children. We'll move on to our next segment here, Lakshmi Garu, which is your X Factor. And here I would love to learn about your personality. And a big part of that has been your spiritual journey and your spiritual growth and what you're doing at the present moment to really impact the lives of so many people around you. So this is your X Factor.
I'm one of those very, very lucky people who a spiritual master came into my life just when I was wondering what's there for me. And that was the time. Now, what do I do? That was the time when my son went to college. So it was like waking up from a dream. Just as I was wondering, what's my next thing to do? Because I had spent a lot of time preparing life for my son, right? So at that time, I met my spiritual teacher, Amma. She's Mata Amritanandamayi Devi. She's a humanitarian and a spiritual teacher, master for millions of people in the world. And the way she was, the first time when I met her, and the people were, she was just spreading love to everybody. She said her religion was love. And she wants to see the world becoming more loving, happy, and compassionate. Compassion is the other side of her religion, the love. She's if you are loving and if you are compassionate, you can take yourself to a place where you can be a servant to the world. That's what she says, and she's done that. And we all strive to be like that with her. She says there are two kinds of poverty in life. One is the poverty for material things and money. The other is the poverty for love. And she says if we take care of the poverty of love and compassion and give people that, everyone will change to a point where they become charitable, they will become sharing, and that selfishness will go away and it leads to selflessness. And that will take care of the poverty of material things and money. that made a lot of sense to me because having worked with children, I see all kinds of, I have a lot of people come from different sects of the society. I see that, and I didn't know how to be helpful. I didn't know how to do that. And Amma taught me how to take care of every need of the families who come into the school. One day she told me, treat all of them as your children. That's what she told me. Even the adults, she said, treat them like they are your children. And so the love will flow from your heart to everyone. I I did all this, and I this is why I love her. The way she is, the way she wants us to be carriers and torch bearers of peace to the world tomorrow and give it to the children whenever we are with them, you know. So this is why I love my spiritual teacher. And then another part of it is learning spirituality, how to meditate, how to be compassionate, and how to spend your time the right way so we are not just wasting away time or energy, you know. So I found out how much time I was wasting, and I needed to uh, I needed to be on my own, learn to manage my own time and energy in the right way.
I'd like to also learn a little bit about the activities that you're doing through this organization, this nonprofit that you're part of. So feel free to talk about that.
I live in the ashram in Chicago, in Amma's MA Center ashram, and we have a school that it's a Montessori school, and I'm on the board of that school. And the teachers and the parents are just wonderful. The children are just great. So I see a community there that is going towards so much love and peace and all that. And I would love to be a part of, continue to be a part of that. And the community here is always, they're doing a lot of community work for small jobs like having a kitchen that gives a lot of food and free meals and all that, to a lot of cultivation, planting, orchard, fruit forest, things like that. And then we have meditation classes, and we have being in the ashram, we have to. I would say there is a good order in bhajan classes, bhajans every night, satsangs every Saturday. There is a Swamiji who lives here giving us a lot of advice. And on the whole, this is a very, very peaceful environment. And Amma, um, nationally and internationally, she has so many educational institutes. She has medical colleges, engineering colleges, and Amrita University is what they are called. And Amrita University has become, I think they're always rated under the top 5 education centers in India. The students who come out of there, they are taking a little bit of Amma to the world wherever they are. And then she has so many charitable missions in India and around the world, which helps a lot of women, especially in India, who are, if a person has become widowed, or if they don't have enough money, or if they are older, she has put in several programs just for them, like giving them pension money, or giving women a lot of strength in teaching them new skills and how they survive on their own. They have become very successful. So many of these women are very successful. Those are the types of work that Amma does. I don't know how she does it. She has so many people that she has in her organization. And I see them from afar, what work, what great work they do. She's also now getting into mental health program where she is using values like satya, dharma, ahimsa, prema, which all leads to that inner peace. By doing these, she's giving people in the police department or even the army, teaching them meditation. Her I am meditation is very, very famous in the world. And then she's now doing mental health programs where people are going to tell them that they have a different life other than their work. In India, it's very hard for them to understand. There is a home life that they need to be connecting with. So there are so many things people are working on, giving them tools to be a householder, a husband, a son, a father, all of those roles they are recognizing. And the main thing is they're teaching other people. I found out that the policemen, when they get a day off, they come right back to the police station because they don't know how to be a person in the family. So those are the kind of things that awes me. It's so beyond my comprehension. So those are the things I would like to be a part of. And we do a lot of things here also. They go to the jails and do meditation, and they have circle of love where they communicate with people in prisons, things like that, you know. So, and she has collaborated with a lot of universities here, with her own university. This summer, the collaboration happened with the University of Wisconsin.
It's the need of the hour. I think the way the world is transforming around us and the kind of problems we're seeing all over, we need more direction and guidance in this path where people start embracing themselves, their spirituality, and I think Amma is definitely a shining light and bringing so much positivity and peace to people around her. And for you to be part of this organization, you are thoroughly blessed. You bring with you a wealth of these qualities that make you such a great addition to Amma's organization. So thank you, Lakshmi Garu. Thank you so much for all you do. And we'll move on to our final segment here, which is your self-care. I'd love to know when it comes to taking care of yourself at a mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual level. How do you take care of yourself?
Um, I have to say, for 40 years, when I was in the school in Ohio, my life was only school. My all my energy went to the school. And when I retired and I moved here, all of a sudden the children are not there. And that gave me a lot of time to take care of what was important for me in spiritually. And I started meditating a lot more, reading scriptures a lot more, and being a part of the ashram. They're all with the same goal. So it's easy to talk to people here. And then I feel like being in the ashram is very easy at the same time, very easy because there are like minded people surrounding you. It's also very challenging in certain ways because Amma says in an ashram, people go through like a mixer that mixes crude stones and make them all shiny at the end. And so we are in the ashram going through that mixing. We go through a lot of those, like I can feel Amma's hands trying to understand what is really valuable to hold on to, you know. So Amma says our true nature is to be peaceful, loving, and compassionate. And anything else is like a visiting emotion, like the jealousy or hatred or illness or competition. They say this to children and I see it everywhere I go. And we have to find out what is causing these feelings that are here to not stay, just to visit, and then confront and move on. Don't hold it because your heart has no place for them. Your heart has only place for love and positivity, right? So don't hold on to that. Amma says that it's like going on a train and the train is moving, but this man is holding his luggage with him. And the luggage is so heavy that he is not putting it down. He's getting so stressed out holding. And everyone says, why don't you put the luggage down? And he says, I only got a ticket for myself, not for my luggage. Just like that, we are choosing to hold on to all the burdens, everything from our past, everything from our bad memories we have. We just not let it go. We need to let it go and get rid of that burden on a daily basis. So we are not holding on to that luggage as we move on with life, right? So that's a big lesson I learned, to let go and to be accepting what we have, what we are. And then that gives us a lot of patience because everyone else is also in the same boat, so we don't judge other people, but be compassionate and say, everyone's going through the struggles we are going through. Everyone wants to be in the same place that we want to be. So that becomes a helpful, very kind environment. I see a lot of parents, especially from India, they are so attached to their children. And I feel the parents, especially when they have retired, it's really, really worth it to to assess this kind of living because then they're not interfering with our children. Let them have their own life. You will always have love among you, between you, and they'll always come to you and take care of you, or you need to take care of them. All that happens. But then they will also be so proud to know that you can take care of yourself, right? I think we owe to our children to have a life where they're not worried about us. You know, that's something I would like to share with the parents from India because they don't know when to let go, when to be attached, and then they just need to know that attachment is not necessary.
Those words are worth their weight in gold. I think I would love for you to talk a little more about that. Sometimes there are personality issues, right? I mean, there are children who are not very communicative for whatever reason, children who are not as emotionally close. And I think it creates a lot of heartburn and heartache in parents when they don't hear back and they want their children to do certain things and do it certain way. And when that expectation is not met, it's so tormenting for the parents more than anything else. How can they cope with that?
I know I have to say I was in the same experiencing the same emotions as my child was growing up, as he went to college and he was by himself alone in a different city for years and years. That was an attachment issue, but not letting him think that he's okay by himself. And that's one of the reasons I am so happy that I have this spiritual answer that remember in our Vedic knowledge, we say that there is four stages in life, where's the Balya, Grihastha, and then Vanaprastham and Sannyasi. If we stick to those and understand what they are for, the attachment will just fall away. I learned a lot about all this to be a better mother to my son, not a menace in his life, because that could be a menacing situation when they can't do anything without asking your permission, or they have to share everything with you. None of that matters. Who you are matters. And we think we are doing them a service. Oh, my child cannot live without me. Oh, she doesn't know how to do this, so let me do it for her. We are talking about children who are adults who have families. And this is when the parent has to say, I had my turn, now it's her turn. I have given her all the tools. I have given him all the tools. Not that I have given him, more like through me, he was able to get the tools through his father, through his grandparents, through this beautiful family. He's a person who can handle himself. And with that, he's doing a great job. And if he falls, it's okay. Look at the way he picks himself up. We think that we invest so much in the children that we get emotionally, we criticize them, judge them, and in a passive aggressive way, we talk to them. And all that is totally unnecessary. When my son got married, and that's when I needed the most help. And I asked Amma, what's my role in my son's life anymore? Then she told me that my role is to be an observer because I have done everything I can to bring him up and be where he is. And he has done a great job of doing that for himself. So she said that you need to learn to be an observer. Go to his house, go visit them whenever you want to, but don't interrupt their household. Don't try to change them. If he and his wife are having a conversation, don't interrupt. It's their decision. You don't have to say, when I was little, I did that. Why don't you do that? That's all over. This country, it's their turn. We need to really instill that in Indian Asian parents' mind because we have our own things to do. Look at the Vanaprastha stage. That's when your child is gone, your daughter is married, you're looking at retiring or you have retired. That's the time to say, what is there for you? And what are the things you will like to be interested? It doesn't have to be total Vedic spirituality. It could be something that you like to take up, maybe golfing or a game. Or how about I have seen a lot of people do a different change in their work. They will do something totally different and getting to know that. Or having friends and spending time with them, going places in the world and visiting. What a wonderful time for that to happen. You don't have to invite your children, or when they go on a vacation, you don't have to invite yourself to their vacation. And there are times you can do that, but there are also times you need to give each other space, you know, and then not to judge each other. So important. Parents are doing what they like to do. They planned on it all their lives. Children are doing what they are doing. They planned on it. They are continuing to plan, right? And as long as we have a working relationship where everybody's happy and peaceful, why not continue that? It's not about I can do this better than you, I can cook better than you. My son only likes my cooking. I see a lot of that. I don't know why we have this obsession about food and children. I feel like we have to stop that because I always make fun of my Indian parents. They come to give me the application next one day. The next day they bring a spoon and say, "Can you please feed my child?" I'm not I'm not saying they're in a derogative way, but that's our attitude. If I'm not there, who will feed my child? It's a big problem. That's huge for a mother. So I even um, tell them, in a kidding way, let's cut that umbilical cord, you know?
Like I said, all this advice is absolutely great, and I just want parents to think about it. If you're watching and you've got kids and you are identifying with this conversation, and you've got those moments of, yeah, this is what I do. Well, I hope this really helps you think through some of the things that can really make life easy. We don't have to complicate things, which we do unnecessarily and all the time, especially as parents and uh, as in-laws and what have you. So Lakshmi Garu, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that great advice to our audience. Loved this conversation with you. I really want to thank you for coming on the show and having this conversation with me.
I know I had a wonderful time with you. And you brought out a lot of memories that I had that was very pleasant about my childhood and bringing up my child and who I am today, and I really think what you learn needs to be shared, right? All good lessons need to be shared. And so thank you for giving me that opportunity.
Thank you once again.
Thank you so much. Namaste.